Good morning. Now, the Beatles enlisted YouTube in committing a fraud, saying that I had threatened them with a short information video about what they've been up to. And anyone who could see it would know that it was untrue. I chose not to challenge it because there was a sub theme that I will get to that was operational for them. That would have made my appeal futile. But anyone who could see it would see immediately that there was no threat. So what gives? Well, it underscores the situation that they're using to justify the AIDS attack. They claim that the letter to Leslie contained an emotional intelligence threat, meaning if you read it, you would see that there was no threat. And that gave them the right to torture me, rape my girlfriend, terrorize me, and prove that nonviolence was a farce, and that eventually a person who was tortured will snap out. And when they snap out, we can say there, that proves the emotional intelligence. One of these men comes from Burma. His name is Andrew Cho. He's my suspect in the murder of Donnie Chin. And I think he was involved in these attacks. He seems to have ties to Mount Desert Island in his sociological program. Is an expert in illicit expulsion. They've taken my life work by forcing me into homelessness. And the Seattle stupids, or brilliants, or whatever is going on with the left, who go along with this like to see people arrested as a form of hazing. That's their idea of proving yourself worthy. Now, I argued and showed that the people who tortured me were sexually directed, and they would say, he's only after the pussy. And so, obviously, the way to go is to play into their sexual entrapments, even if it seemed like it was pleasure-seeking, to prove that they were using a sting operation from police psychiatric services. It was premeditated and tied to the AIDS attack. And these stupids went along with it. These brilliants were behind it. And they said, we support this idea because it gives the honest black man access to the symbolic, sublime object of worship, the second virgin promoted by Yoko Ono and Donald Trump. And they slyly laced, if you were to see the video, you would see what I showed was King Edward's handmaiden in Dealey Plaza and how it linked up with Sergeant Pepper's. And I showed how they threatened and cried that I was doing something when I was just a bystander. They just, said, well, he's to blame for this thing that happened thousands of miles away and that thing that happened thousands of miles away. Because they were hardwiring in and using me for planet illusion military. And dreams made real shenanigans and so forth to justify all this weird stuff that they've been pulling. And they created an alliance of the left, the people who are hungry. Well, you're going to be hungry, right? So get the fluff out of the way because they're hungry too, right? Me too, I'm hungry too. Adolf is hungry. He's your friend, he'll feed you. So, and if you don't like it, go starve. Go be a Bobby Sands protesting Ringo Starr if that's how you really feel queerbait. So, they set up these, like Sarah Dawson up at school in Beverly Brunch, they're playing the role of the drama club's Hitler nuns, like the painting Nancy Moore had on her wall when I was growing up, the Swastika Girls tag team, Oh, well, she bimboed up to him, and he made a satirical cartoon which contained not one shred of sexual overture whatsoever. And he gets thrown out of her tutoring class because he obviously can't control himself in the presence of a bimbo. And you have this problem with family law at CCAC. He's all smoozing with, proclaiming Alvin Lee while schmoozing with these parochial savages probably tied to Carl and Mercy and Duquesne who put up Midori Goto's, bimbo Rosa who seduced me, said she was going to be married to me so that they could set up this idea that there was a secret world, emotional intelligence tension in the queerbait, and they knew they had implanted a nerve agent. And they detonate it, and they say, well, the pornography belongs to the oppors in the Seattle Green Party who want to sell it for Christian money. And they've had this Christian system and these crazies from Christian extremism all in the pornography system that they bonfired with the AIDS attack, and it's implicit in the symbols of the thing. So they love to see people arrested. Drama clubs love to see people arrested. Seattle loves to see people arrested. If you don't do it, then you're bad people. You're not one of them. But if you look at the people who are working with Martin Sheen at the Catholic Worker in Pittsburgh and Hollywood, you see, from the Odessa file, they're talking about the murder of JFK. You know what you could get for that photograph. And Vince Irini, you know what you can get for the images of queerball being tortured. He stands for C, in the Holocaust survivor community, right? And this is the symbol of their pornographic agency, which they left the script. And it traces the birth of a nation. And you can see Birth of the Nation used Heilig. You see? Heilig. Promoting the KKK. And yet they switched the races to the white liberal who's foaming at the mouth, and the black man wants to go along with it. The parochial black man, Clarence Thomas. And they used images of what they were doing in the pornography system, right? That are just like the images on the White Album, with the ghostly hand and stuff. And so you wonder, what is this business promoting? Rather, us and Lazarus with the stuff back from the dead. And what they're promoting is Ringo Starr's The Wall. Ringo Starr's The Walrus, who's Adolf Hitler, and you can't catch them, and they say, oh, you're threatening with those images. Who am I threatening with those images? Well, what they're implying is their pseudo-government that killed Circe. Oh, if you think that that's justified, that's not you. Then you're implying that they deserve the death penalty, right? So they can kill Circe, and it's a concept that comes from the illusion machine that used Star Trek and Beam Me Down for London's evacuation. And they were planning it in films with double images from long ago, like Mothra. Remember the Mothra twins? And they set it up, and they do a Pearl Harbor, and they're supposedly the heroes. They were calling me before it started, and that's what they were studying. This is part of the British strategy for war against the United States, right? So they're implying that they have the right to do this because they were threatened by who? By a newspaper person who was trying to warn his peers of what was going on? Well, it is a threat to them, I guess, in a funny kind of way, because they were in on it. They're a bunch of creepy costume play leftists who are really fascists in disguise, going around poisoning people. Literally, deliberately, and calling themselves like moral dimension of our Commonwealth.